Now, and just let me say this too. I think another thing that comes out of this is that just because someone is religious, even deeply religious, does not mean they are saved. Now, perhaps you could think of very devout Muslim neighbors and friends. I was at a governor's meeting on Thursday, and we were passing around a card, and there's some lovely sentiments. It was for a lady who'd lost a young son, very sadly, over the summertime. And some of those comments about it being in the hands, the will of Allah, and of the promise of paradise, really, that was a very strong note, were sort of very, very touching and very devout. And it struck me, and I thought, what am I going to write? Because I had to write something in this card as well, and in the end I expressed condolence, and I said grace and peace, because I thought, well, there's a Christian expression that perhaps will be helpful. But I was struck by just how devout these folks are. They're lovely folks who serve in the community. But of course, a deeply devout and religious person, I'm sure you know some in your community, can be the most hardened kind of person. Isn't that what the Bible often teaches us? That can be, their hearts can be very hard against the gospel. Just think of some of the folks that you know, whether they're Muslims or Jews or atheists. And imagine one day they declare they've become a Christian. You'd be amazed. It would seem like a huge miracle, wouldn't it? Because people can be so entrenched and dug in, can't they, to their ways, to their religion, to their non-religion. But it's not impossible, is it? Because remember who Exhibit A is in this case. It's the Apostle Paul himself, or the Saul, who was also Paul. He is the Exhibit A. Indeed, when Jesus speaks of nothing being impossible for God, I know we're very fond of this phrase, and it's lovely, isn't it, that nothing is impossible for him. But he meant it not primarily in terms of healing or other miracles, which are of course wonderful, but in terms of salvation and conversion. He was speaking about the conversion of a rich man. Nothing is impossible with God. Paul was a great example of that. Truly hardened, dug in, entrenched in his Judaism. A Jew of Jews, really a Pharisee of Pharisees. But he was saved. He knew firsthand what he was talking about. He was not saved because he was deeply devout. He was incredibly religious, but he said, I have no righteousness of my own. No true righteousness.